not cooperate. All right. I did a video, well, a couple of videos on hats already, including number 3 was hiking hats. I talked about Boonie hats already, and I probably showed half of these at least. But this is just an excuse to, look into some of the details and camouflage patterns. And for those of you who didn't see the previous video, because that one came out in the springtime and now it's autumn, so maybe we're getting some people who are getting more into outdoorsy stuff if the weather's cooling down, or we're getting into, chasing animals season. Now, this is not a true Boonie hat, but we'll start with this one just because this one has some features that the other ones don't. It has the slightly smaller little breather vents, but it does have also the snap up side thing. A lot of these hats with the snap up side things, the snap won't be in quite the right place, but where you'd want to snap it is not where it actually snaps. Yeah, this one's way cockeyed, and this grommet here has kind of a sharp thing going on that can catch on your head and pull on your hairs. Of course, typically these are military hats, which means you're meant to have pretty short hair or no hair. This one has a big plastic adjuster thing for your chin string, which can be cumbersome. It depends on the style and models, all that kind of thing. This one, of course, is a German camo one. This hat looked okay until it rained, and then it got all kind of rumply looking. So it almost resembled a Boonie hat, except that it's way more structured than a true Boonie hat. Of course, there's a seam in the back. Some people wear the seam in the front. I don't know why you would ever want to do that. And the tag says 100% Baumwolle, cotton, and some other laundering instructions that I will ignore. And this one has a kind of mesh lining. So again, more extra features that a typical Boonie hat will not contain, but as a good starter, also kind of similar, but not quite, to the Marpat marine woodland pattern, which I have somewhere around here, but I just could not find. Okay. So then similarly, we have civilian versions that I know I showed before. This is the Dorfman Pacific. Also cotton, also with a big heavy duty adjuster thing, also with small vent grommet things. It has vegetation loops, but I don't know why, because I don't know how camouflaged you're going to be. But as I showed in the previous video, these really sag. They don't hold their shape as well as you might like, to keep the sun, not necessarily to keep the sun off, but just to kind of keep it, where you want the brim in relation to everything. I tried starching one of these before with spray starch, and it did literally nothing. I ironed and starched, and the brim still just basically wanted to flop down way too much. I'm not exactly sure why you have less of that issue with the military ones, but even the ones that don't have the stingy brim, for some reason the brims are just a little bit more cooperative. I think some of it has to do with the stitch density of these reinforcement strands. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if they have, some might have cardboard in here and others might just be layers of fabric, so that might be something to do with it. I don't know if this one's older or not. I assume it is, because here we have this kind of adjustment thing instead, but it's the same exact brand, but this one has the traditional mesh grommets, which are a lot more true to military standard. But yeah, basically same thing, except this one has black underneath and the cloth is sewed. It's about the same. The brim is sewed about the same. It looks like it's about the same amount of bands. I don't know if I've washed this one or not. I mean, it looks faded in, enough spots that it's probably been washed. I have a different one that I know I've worn. I don't recall. I've probably worn this one at least once, but not extensively. I know I've worn this one, so yeah, this one's been washed. And it's that kind of indigo look to it. But they're twill, regular twill fabric here. No mystery, just kind of a heavy weight. A little too warm for most summer use for me. Here's their little slightly flimsier, distressed version. I know I showed this one in the previous video. But the smaller brim, but you're still getting a lot of that kind of bucket hat. I would call a bucket hat a slightly different type of hat, but this is close to a bucket hat. Because with a bucket hat, you will, overall, like a fishing bucket hat, you will have a stiffer brim. How they do that, like I said, it's a mystery. So basically, when I'm getting into preferences, well, the obvious one I can show with these two hats is, of course, typically the wider brim because it blocks more sun. That's like the whole point of the thing. This is, an okay, like casual sitting with your rods in the shade kind of hat. But if I'm out in direct sunlight, even this is not going to be quite enough brim. This one, of course, though, being the ripstop material, if we can get a close up, and then you can see little squares where it's still cotton. This is one of the older ones with the single ply, not the double ply. Well, I shouldn't say older. This one's made in China. It's a different. This one might be a Rothco one. Their brims tend to be about the same width, but it's not automatic because I don't know how much they do of rip stop. Whereas this is a USA made one that may or may not be accurate Vietnam Tiger camo, but as soon as I washed it, all the green ran out of the bandolier. Again, we have the little leather doohickey instead of anything too complicated. The desert ones usually don't have any vegetation loops for what I guess seems like obvious reasons, but there's different desert camos. So I'll be showing 4 different desert camos. So I'm doing these in no real particular order, or 5, I guess, technically. There is a desert version of this that's slightly different than the Air Force version. And of course you can't see it as well on this hat, but yeah, okay. The traditional mesh, same as the last one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the seam is in the back and the back is higher than the front, and that's on purpose to keep the hat from going down over your eyes. So the guy out there who made the video about how he wears his hat this way, that's backwards. You're doing it wrong. And I think that was the same guy who collects all the vintage ones, but he still wants to wear them, but he wants them to be museum pieces or something. I don't know. Your results may vary. So here's definitely a Rothco one that is a ACU twill. So again, the heavier. What I was saying about the military pants was that these will be a bit cooler in the summer, but these will not be that much warmer in the winter. So a lot of times, but I'm in California. So a lot of times I still prefer the ripstop even in the winter, but I do still have some of the twill that I still sometimes wear in the warmer weather, even though I don't like it as much and I don't have as big a brim on these. Why I have these short brim ones, I don't know, I just do. Here's another desert camo one. Again, same thing, single ply. This one's been worn slightly less than this one. This one's still got the folds in it from the store because it hasn't been properly worn and washed and all that yet. But typically, they come rolled now, and they used to come a little more flat, I think, because I used to have one that I could really shape the brim, if you can believe that. The first one I got way back when I could make it look like a fedora. All the ones I got since then, the brims all came all tweaked, and there was nothing I could really do with it. But yeah, typically most of them are all cotton, but then the newer ones you're starting to get cotton. Yeah, cotton poly blend. So yeah, this one's 45% polyester. And this one is probably the same. Yes. And you need to buy, and these are made in China or whatever. You need to buy them a little bit big, but not super big. But it varies from brand to brand because this one's like a 7 1/4 and it fits fine. Whereas I know I have at least one in here that's a 7 1/2. But in some hats, I'm a 7 1/8, if you can believe that. But these are all 7 1/4 pretty much, or medium. It's pretty straight up medium. So most of you will not want medium, you will want large. If you are a standard average adult sized head person. Similar to those are the proper ones. This is a slightly different brand, but also mostly has the stingier brims. This particular, obviously green. This one I just got like last year or something. Machine wash cold, yada, yada, yada. What else does it say? 100% cotton. So that was a selling feature made in Haiti, I think. But okay, so we still have the mesh grommets. We still have the bandolier loops. We still have the little leather trinket. But this one, obviously, a throwback Vietnam style, similar to this also being more of a throwback Vietnam style, whereas these other ones being a bit more modern for one reason or another. There's another proper one in a desert camo that I don't think was ever adopted by the actual military. And we still have, this time we have a polyester and only 35% cotton. So that being, but also the ripstop fabric. So if I can get in close, so you can see that. I'll show it in this one. You can see the little ripstop fabrics. And isn't that wonderful? But this one, I had to go up. Yeah, this one's a 7 1/2. This one ran small. So fortunately, I was able to try that one on first. Whereas some of the other ones, if you mail order them and they're just tight, you're, not enjoying life as much. This, where are you, Heidi? Whereas here's the true spec one, but this is the more newer true spec one, because this is what I was talking about. The newer ones have this map flap. I don't necessarily like that because it's an extra layer of warm fabric that I don't really want on a summer day. But some other guys say they really love it for some reason or another. This is one of the poly cotton ones, not one of the cotton ones when they started phasing out the cotton, like everybody else started phasing out the cotton. And this was called Marine Coyote or whatever at the time. I don't know if the Marines ever adopted the full coyote for any real uniform purposes or not. But that's what this is in a ripstop. And this is overall, though, the style of brim, the hat that I basically mostly want. Why I have all these other ones is just for, I don't know, on whims, and you think you're going to use one around the house to beat it up so you don't mess up your hiking one, or sometimes you want one that you're going to put in your backpack. And most of the time, again, when I'm hiking, I'm not wearing necessarily Boonie hat because I have mesh hats and other stiff brim things that I have grown to prefer to just wearing the Boonie hat most of the time. But this goes with 60% of my wardrobe or something. So instead of camo, whereas here's a cheap Chinese version of this was supposed to be a 3-color desert, but most of the 3-color desert faded out or was not really present. So it looks just like a tan hat, still with the leather, but with this kind of goofy material tag instead. And can I even read this? Let's see what it's made out of. Just the light wants to reflect off of this. And the tag is dark and the printing is black, so, and it's been washed. Yeah, I really can't read this, but it's something cotton. Some amount of cotton. The silliest video ever as I try to lean out of the camera to get into the light to not be able to read whatever that says. Another true spec, one of the newer kind. again with the flap, but this time in the twill. A lot of the better camouflage patterns, they only came out within the twill, never in the ripstop. I don't know why. I guess they're afraid that I'm going to pass myself off as a real Vietnam veteran if I have the camouflage hat in the proper material. But again, with the wider brim, which was more of the 80s than the 60s, and this one with the black instead of the green. But I don't know if this is the more accurate tiger pattern than that tiger pattern. But they are slightly different. And again, one's been washed, but that doesn't affect it. That, but you can see the brown is more reddish and the black is a little more stark from the dye job or whatever. Okay, going back to the 80s then, or technically the 60s turning into the 80s. My first one that I outgrew was very similar to this, of course. Not as cheap, a little bit wider brim. This is a Sportsman's Guide HQ one. This is definitely a poly blend of some 60% cotton. But overall, not a terrible hat, I guess. I mean, if you can handle the polyester fabric. Again, definitely a winter hat for me, not a summer hat. So it doesn't get used as much, but it has been definitely worn. You can see the wear on the thing. Yeah, I outgrew the one that I bought way back when that was like the real true spec Marine Recon one or whatever. So this had to do to match some of my stuff. But I do have these other ones. Another true spec one in the ripstop that was mid 90s, I think. This one should be all cotton, 7.5. I don't think this one says the size. What size? 7.25. So yeah, this one I had to buy a little bit bigger, and then it shrank down or whatever. So I had to get a couple in 7.5 around that time. The other desert one's out in the garage somewhere, but it's a total polyester blend. Again, nothing you'd actually want to wear in the desert for the 6-color camo. So it was the same camo as this, just in a worse material. This one being, again, the cotton lightweight, no double flap. And then even though I had that one, for some reason I bought these because it was a 2-for-1 special, but this is the HQ version. So similar to the true spec, but not the true spec. And I've removed that tag because it was itchy, so I don't know how much of this is cotton. It might be 100% cotton, but it also has the extra map flap thing that I was talking about. And they've all been pretty consistent with this and with these and with that. And again, we're kind of going through the motions here because they're Boonie hats. There's not a lot of the color is the main difference for some of them. This is I don't know if this brand is supposed to be European or based on European, but this was another one from Sportsman's Guide that was or did I? No, I got this at the surplus store. Okay, this was not from Sportsman's Guide, but this is definitely German camo. And the whole gimmick here was you could wear it woodland or desert, but I quickly found that if you're going to try and reverse them, it'd be better just to buy 2 hats, because if you wear the woodland out, it's going to fade and you're going to get the sweat and everything. And then if you try to go to desert, it's going to be less faded, but then this is going to look all disgusting. Whereas if you start with desert and wear it out and then go woodland, you might have a slightly better result, slightly less faded. So yeah, with this one, I've opted to start with the desert and go woodland later, but it's a double. The problem with the being 2 camo patterns is it's a double thick crown and top. So it's a little bit heavier, a little bit warmer. The grommets are a little bit smaller. We have no vegetation loops. If you want that for some reason, you have this kind of double chin strap idea that's supposed to, you have 2 adjusters so that you can work it from both ends. But as you can see, I haven't worn this one yet, so I don't know how well it actually functions. I just got it to have the 2 camo pattern option somewhere down the road after I wear these other 20. So similar, like I said, I'm going to just showing this one just to show the desert pattern, another true spec one with the map flap, again with the twill instead of the ripstop. So perfect for the desert where it's 110 degrees. You want this heavy duty polyester cotton. What does that say? 35% cotton. So almost all polyester, or not almost all, but more than half polyester. 7 1/4 though, because it's guaranteed to never ever shrink because polyester. But you know, again, a hat that you can wear in cooler weather more comfortably. Whereas this one, I think this is another Miltech one. Yes, another Miltech one, except this time it's slightly more updated. It's the German version of the multicam with the map flap. So it's the Flectar / desert / multicam ripoff-ish kind of thing. Except now we have a rubber stopper instead of a leather one. Same as the previous with the 2. Except here we don't have 2. We have vegetation band instead. So this is a hat that I definitely am going to prefer to the double-sided one, even though at the time, like I said, I thought the double-sided one was a neat gimmick. But this one, again, would probably just remove the map flap and have a nice sun hat for warmer weather. I'm positive I showed this one in the previous video. This is just the rain gear version. And I think this was available in 3 camouflage patterns at the time. It might be available in more now. So it's treated, and it's not something you're going to want to wear if you're, you know, not in a wet, swampy conditions. I don't know if I can read any of this. H2O ECWS, one size fits all. It's supposed to be adjustable with this ribbon loop. The tag's all munched from storage. This blah blah, I can't even read that because the light's in my eyes. And here it's all shiny. Should be laundered something, I don't know. Bleach or dry clean. Do not bleach or dry clean, right? Okay. Launder utilizing something. Well, I'm never ever throwing this hat in the wash because I live in a place where it never ever rains. I just bought it in case of an emergency. Wouldn't worry about it. There's stuff in the tags and all that. You can look into that if you're really super on the market for rain gear. And then lastly, this British camo deal, their version of desert. This one that I talked about here, where it has this kind of sun flap, but this blocks the sun off your neck effectively to keep you from getting burned, but also traps the heat effectively underneath, so you heat up more. And of course, as all the desert camo, it's a super heavy twill, so it's absolutely kind of the worst sun hat, and these vegetation loops are kind of funky compared to the American ones. So I don't know how much the Brits hate being in the desert if they're forced to wear a hat like this, or if this is just the version they send to America. And then, of course, we have this adjuster thingy with this elasticized string instead of a regular twine yarn. And then it's got NATO size 58 or whatever. Contract number, hat. You know, that's been covered over, so I can't read what it says. Something desert, DP, hat. Something with a CO. I don't think it says camouflage. Not really sure what that's supposed to say, but you can try and read the tag as well as I can. It's completely, they've sewed this tab onto the words part of the tag where your hat strap goes, which is just knotted in there. And so that's the way the British do it. Kind of an interesting take, a little bit more high tech or whatever. Excuse me. Well, this video went on a bit longer than anticipated, but did we cover everything? No, not at all. Did we talk about Boonie hats from a historical perspective? A little bit, enough, right? If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and put it in the comments. Like I said, I've already done other hat videos, so shouldn't be too hard to find those.